Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Lighting Up Your Fridays with the 5 Stars of Strengthening Families with Penny and Kim. We are doing a 4-part series on parental resilience, and this is part 3 that we're moving into. But before we do that, Penny's going to do a little check-in and then let us know what our question of the day is.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, so last week we talked about how you deal with the ideas and opinions of a co-parent around parenting your teen when they're different from your own ideas. So what we had invited you to do was, again, start noticing when that might be happening, and perhaps taking that opportunity to look a little deeper about what might be going on for the co-parent and maybe validating some of the feelings or fears they might be experiencing instead of focusing on only the behavior. So when we can understand that as parents, we all have our children's best interests at heart, and that, disagreements might be arising from a particular idea or fear or moral or value that our co-parent holds. When we can be curious about that and help them feel understood, it's easier to come to some sort of a compromise, I think, right? And modeling your own values and parenting practices to them when you have the opportunity to. So we hope you had a chance to give that a bit of a try. Today, our question is, why might you get overly involved in your teen's life and their choices? That's part 1. And then how do you restrain yourself if you notice that this is happening? So why do you think it is that you might find yourself getting overly involved in your teen's life and their choices? Kim.
Well, the first thing that comes up for me would be if something's happened to my teen, maybe from somebody else, and they're wounded. Maybe, I might want to come in as the mother bear and protect, and maybe I might want to also teach some lessons in the wake of it as well. And so, and I might think that that's a loving thing to do, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but it can't be at the cost of doing it all for the teen, right? We're sort of robbing our teens of that opportunity to problem solve and figure it out for themselves. And if we can just kind of pull back the reins a little, if we're getting too involved, and realize that these are the opportunities where our kids build these problem solving skills and relationship skills. We can help sort of guide them and be there as a sounding board, but not always sort of take the lead and do it for them. I think too, if it hits a spot that might have been a wound in us, I think then we're probably more likely to do that as well. So I guess those are the reasons. Maybe before I go on to the why, I'll ask you yours, Penny, and then we'll do the why, what to do, how to pull back.
Right. Okay. So
unless you want me to. Okay.
Yeah. Why might I get involved? Yeah, similar to you. Usually it's a fear-based, right? So I'm afraid that they'll get hurt, emotionally, physically hurt, or, my kids are a little younger, but, the mess they're going to make, how my involvement is going to change. And it basically boils down to believing in my own competency and my own coping mechanisms, right? What if something does happen? Am I going to be able to handle that? And so we've talked about fear-based parenting before, and I think for me, that's what I would notice is those would be the times when I would be getting. And I think that's the same for sort of like you were talking about a lesson, right? So for me, when I'm really, really curious and noticing what I'm doing, even when it's like teaching them a lesson of some kind, what's my greater worry or fear is that they're not going to be this kind of person or that kind of person. They won't be polite. They won't be, or they'll be a, delinquent, or all of those fears. That's when I would find myself intervening more than was probably appropriate. Yeah. Okay.
Especially if it's a lesson you're wanting to teach that they already know. If they know that they're supposed to speak politely, if they know that they're supposed to treat others with respect, if they know, but they lost their temper, and then we're just beating our heads against the wall trying to teach them something that they already know. It's not about teaching the lesson anymore. Then it's about helping them to hold their temper, helping them to be less impulsive, and that comes with maturation.
Yeah.
So then what would you do then to pull back? Second part of the question. What's the second part of the question again?
How do you
restrain?
Well, I don't know. Most of the time it's the aftermath where I'm going, maybe I could have, but that opens up a conversation too. But I'm trying more. With sensitive children, it's even that much more critical that they feel our belief in their competence. So trying to remind myself about that whenever I step in, I'm signaling something to them. I'm signaling that I don't believe they're capable. And so that's helpful for me to remember that like you said, we're trying to help, but I'm not actually helping, right? I'm hindering their chance to learn something. And of course, this isn't involving unsafe situations, but just like hurts, wounds, right? As they grow into their teens and they start getting into relationships and those kinds of things, it doesn't help them for me to, intervene, and unless they've asked for my thoughts, right? And even then, trying to draw out, trying to put that back on them. You seem unsure. So what part are you unsure about? Let's talk about that, right? So just reminding myself that it's a skill. It's not my job to fix them. It's not my job to make their life happy, right? And that's hard. How about you?
Yeah, I think, and realizing, understanding, or having the insight that once they feel understood and that we can help, that understanding helps to bring their alarm down in whatever situation it is, whether it was an emotional wounding situation or something they're afraid of. If we can bring the alarm down, then they once again have access to the thinking part of their brain, and they can figure it out for themselves. You would be amazed at how these kids can figure these things out once we are able to bring down the alarm. So I think it's that insight as a parent to understand that piece, that really all we have to do is bring down the alarm, and the lessons that we're trying to teach will actually just kind of happen on their own very organically. So it's about bringing down the alarms, having that insight.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. That's I'm just looking I found this lovely quote the other day about that very thing you're talking about. The idea that when we want our children to be authentically in the world, it's not our job to make things. Let me see if I can find it here. I probably won't be able to today. Oh yes, here it is. Bear with me here. It's worth it.
Good job. I don't think I could have found anything that fast. Good for you.
When we believe our role is to make sure our child is happy, or our teen, every time our teen is upset, we may feel like we're failing. When we believe our role as parents is to have an authentic child, teen, person, we welcome all the different emotions and are that our teen is experiencing and liberate ourselves from trying to make our child feel a certain way.
That's beautiful.
And that
That's
was
beautiful.
Sturna
And if I could add, sorry.
Suisa. I just wanted to give credit where it was due here.
If I could add to that, you know, when I had that realization as a parent, I realized that every upset, every angry feeling, every sad feeling was actually an opportunity for me to help build maturation and growth and healing in my child. It changed everything for me. And it helped me to end the quest for happiness, which so many of us are on, and which really can trip us up and trip up our children. So I love that quote. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, is the shift in perspective from authenticity, which includes all the feelings, from happy to authentic.
Yeah.
Right? Because no one who's being authentic, or I mean, no one I've ever met is happy all the time.
Right.
And I really want my children, my teens, to be themselves, to feel free to be themselves. So that's interesting. That's a good idea on perspective shift. So let that be our challenge for today. So we're going to notice when we're tending to get involved a little more than we want to. We're going to, first of all, be kind to ourselves and understand that this is a culturally pervasive idea, happiness, and that our job as parents is to protect our children at all costs. So radical self-compassion. Then we're going to get curious about what might be underneath that, right? Why might I be? And then we're going to try to think about what's going on as a skill. Or how can we help our teen, like you said, process and figure this out for themselves? How do we help them build those muscles of problem solving and emotional regulation? That's a big challenge. So, yeah, give it a go. And even if it's just the noticing part and the getting curious about what's going on, that's the first step to change, is awareness. So that's going to be your challenge for the week. So that brings us to the end of part 3 of our resilience series. Next week will be the 4th and final installment. And we're going to talk a little bit about the joys of parenting teens. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you back next week.
Bye, everybody.